Startups and Innovators in Atmanirbhar Bharat, organized by BMSIT&M and Atal Incubation Center, NITI. I would like to request Dr. A.P. Achar sir, CEO, AIC Incubation Center, NITI, for his opening remarks.
Respected Vice Chancellor, Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari, key functionaries of BMS Institute of Technology, I welcome all of you for this special event. As you all know that NITE Education Group is one of the most reputed education group in the region. We offer around 130 courses to 15,000 students in 3 campuses. And since inception, NITE has a passion for innovation in all the courses that we offer. Recognizing our innovation and our effort to create job creators, then job seekers, rather job seekers. And we have been sanctioned Atal Innovation Center by NITI Aayog, and we have started functioning recently. And we are actively participating in the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, which is meant for being self-reliant. So in this contest, we are happy to partner with BMS Institute of Technology, which is also equally active in promoting innovation among the students. In this joint program, 3 days webinar, we invited policymakers from Government of India and academicians who will throw a light on what are the opportunities for the startup and incubators to be self-reliant in this region.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Abhijit. So we are honored with the presence of our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari,
Namaskar, sir.
an administrator, a great administrator and a physician, and also taking active part in the community development. And he is also promoting innovation in a big way. So on a short notice, we're excited to be part of it. We're also happy that Abhay Jare has joined as CIO of Ministry of HRD. So with a good beginning is half done. We are happy to that this event is inaugurated by our Vice Chancellor Satish Kumar Bhandari and Abhay Jare jointly. I request both of them to jointly inaugurate. I once again welcome all the participants. I think we have around 155 plus participants joining from different part of the country. I hope this event will throw a light on how startup and incubators can take charge of innovation and be self-reliant instead of depending on the global suppliers. With this brief opening note, I hand over the session to the coordinator.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. I invite our beloved principal, Dr. G.N. Mohan Babu, sir, for his opening remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sheila. Good morning to you all.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, we welcome all of you to this wonderful event. Happy to have you all on board for this webinar series on Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. The series is of 3 components, a three days program. The first of them being held today, and with the lecture being delivered by Dr. Abhay Jare, a very well-known person to all of us, right? Chief Innovation Officer, MHRD, Government of India. Let us first extend a very hearty welcome to him. He has been very active in promoting the innovation culture among both students and the institute of this country. Specifically, his novel initiative, you all know that India First Leadership Talks. Okay, that was a big hit, and it became a very, very popular and well participated program in this country. I'm so happy that he is here with us. I also welcome Professor Satish Kumar Bhandari, Vice Chancellor of NITE deemed to be universities, and my own friend Dr. A.P. Achar, the CEO of AIC Incubation Center at NITE, and all my lovely BMSIT colleagues to this particular program. In fact, I have been asked to set a context for this particular talk. I'm so happy. This is a topic which is very dear to me. And in fact, we all know that this Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is self-reliant India movement, okay, this was envisioned in May 2020 by our Honorable Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji. And the intention being, to strengthen the Indian economy and to provide wonderful and high quality of living for the people of this country, and also to move towards becoming one of the superpowers in this world. This is the idea with which that has been started. In fact, if I remember correctly, based on my engagement with these kinds of economic literature for about 15-20 years, this kind of self-reliance, the concept of self-reliance is not very new. In fact, if you look back to pre-independence era also, you could see Swadeshi movement was there, wherein the people of India boycotted the foreign products and they burnt and in favor of procuring or buying the Indian products. That was one time, and we all know where it led to. In fact, we are all happy that we became independent later. And beyond that, in 1956, this concept of self-reliance was once again stressed heavily. The then government of Nehru actually brought out what was called as science resolution policy. Some of you might be quite aware of it. Science resolution policy in 1956, which heavily stressed on the self-reliance, rather overstressed on self-reliance, I should say. In fact, that kind of a policy, self-reliance policy, was implemented by the government by a specific strategy called as import substitution industrialization. That was the strategy India followed. And unfortunately, the indiscriminate indigenization of almost any material, goods or machinery that was imported earlier actually was attempted. That's the kind of an effort that was made by Indian government at the time. And unfortunately, what happened is, the imported technologies which had to be scaled down to the Indian market size, which had to be adapted to the local tastes, local skills, local raw materials. All these things actually brought down the productivity of those technologies that were adapted, and quality also became very poor. And because of this low productivity and also poor quality, we could not, or India could not export any of those things that we produced then. And they were far inferior to international competition that way. And apart from that, because of this kind of a limited market of India, domestic market, we saw that the production volumes came down, and hence the cost of the product was also going up. Even Indians could not buy very happily. And see, for example, that day, the then government actually more or less largely compelled the user industries also to a very large extent to buy those equipment and the goods and services the Indian companies produce, which were not fit for exporting that time. And because of this, even the user industries lost their competitive edge internationally. That was the serious issue that happened because of the indiscriminate indigenization of the goods and services over there. Added to this, you all know that the license raj that we had, very prevalent, that was there, and that added its own woes to the Indian economy that time. But there was one positive thing also, as you could notice that the Indian companies had actually mastered a way of altering or adapting or redesigning or modifying the designs of the imported technologies, and they could productionize it under the given conditions in India. That was the situation somewhere in 70s, 80s, and so. And but what happened was this competence that Indians developed were mostly on the outdated or older technologies, because the companies were not permitted easily to import modern technologies any later after they had procured it once and adapted it to the local conditions. This was the situation then. Just contrast this kind of a situation of Indian economic development or national development model with those that were pursued by the Southeast Asian economy. In fact, Southeast Asian economy, you all know that South Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, Singapore, many of these countries which followed the export-oriented industrialization when we were pursuing the import substitution industrialization. And because of the export-oriented industrialization strategy, a lot of advanced technologies were coming into those countries, and they were slowly moving from making or maybe subcontracting kind of an activity to, that is, imitation, towards more and more of innovation. And because of this, we could see that those 8 to 9 countries from Southeast Asia, they could actually grow at the rate of about 9% for 30 continuous years. And you all know that they were called as Asian tigers by the World Bank that time. This was the situation then. And now if we say that we can be totally self-reliant. I see it with a little skepticism. The reason being, if we question ourselves today, are we in a stage today wherein we can actually produce completely whatever we require in our country by ourselves, and also to produce whatever the world requires? Even for that matter, if you take a few examples like medical equipment, the way we suffered at the beginning of this corona pandemic, and also look at these smartphone sales of China in Amazon or whatever it is in India very recently, right? If you look at this defense equipment and many sophisticated, very core technological businesses, you see that there is a serious gap seen over there. And hence, it may not be very pragmatic, or it will not be very easy to accept that we will become self-reliant over a period of time. Of course, that must be our ambition. That's what I personally feel. Okay. In fact, Southeast Asian countries have shown a very beautiful models about 15, 20 years back itself, how the opening the borders for import of high technology products and collaborating with those companies in order to produce them locally here in Indian soil, and slowly start exporting those kind of high-tech products, high-end products to countries outside India, and slowly increase the contribution of ours in that collaboration and master the technology. In fact, we have seen the examples of Maruti Suzuki, and also even TVS for that matter. There are so many companies which have proved this kind of a model. And I think this is a pragmatic self-reliance approach over there. We can't be shutting down the borders, and that's not the intention also maybe in the policy over there. And we see that the 5 pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan has been spelled out by our Honorable Prime Minister, like, the economy, infrastructure, technological systems, or maybe demographic dividends and huge demand of this country. These 5 pillars, they are quite strong at this stage. In fact, today's situation is far different from what we were in 1956, and possibly this could be an ideal situation where India has to harp upon this kind of self-reliance and move towards a realistic level of the self-reliance over there. And this requires decades of effort. It cannot happen overnight. It has to happen. It will take at least 2 to 2.5 decades of very hard work, collaborative R&Ds with very well-known and very reputed foreign companies, and design and even productionizing, marketing, customer support, and all these things will be requiring such kind of collaboration. But slowly over a period of 15, 20 years, we have to enhance our contribution to the collaboration, and we must become almost independent at the end of the day. This is what we should be aiming at. I'm sure that, in fact, I many times think Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, Bharat Abhiyan is no longer an option today. It has become a sort of compulsion, because if you look at the demographic dividend, wherein we see that from 2018 to 2053, about 30-35 years, the working population, or people who are eligible and competent to work, it has exceeded the number of dependent population here. Naturally, if we don't provide them the gainful employment by providing that opportunity in our soil, probably that huge population itself can become a liability and even counterproductive to our system. And that's why I feel that it is very high time that the Prime Minister has thought over this, and it's very important for all of us to think in our own ways and contribute our best to the vision that he has seen. And we must make sure that India becomes a superpower in the days to come. It's very, very important. As teachers, a new education policy is in place now, and that is one of the very important contributor to this kind of a Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And let us do our best to reach out to the effort of the Prime Minister over there. I'm so happy that all the participants will have wonderful takeaway in this particular event. I'm sure that Dr. Abhay Jare will be enlightening us, educating us a lot more on these aspects of how startups and innovators can actually seize the opportunity being created because of this Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. And I'm so excited to listen to him. I have always been a fan of him, I should say. Anyway, I thank Dr. Manjunath, Dean External Relationship, Dr. Sangamesh, and Dr. Sheila for having taken up this initiative, and also giving me an opportunity to share my personal perspective with all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your support and motivational words. Now I request Dr. Sangamesh, Incubation Manager, BMSIT and M, to welcome the dignitaries and introduce the chief guest, Dr. Abhay Jare, sir.
Very good morning to everyone present here with a warm greeting. It gives me a very great pleasure to extend a very warm welcome on behalf of BMS Institute of Technology and Management and AIC NITTE Incubation Center for conducting a series, a webinar series on role of startups and innovators in Atmanirbhar Bharat by a very well-known personality and very eminent speaker, Sri Dr. Abhay Jhireji. Dr. Abhay Jhire is currently the Chief Innovation Officer for Ministry of HRD, Government of India. And before joining the ministry, he was a Chief Scientist in Life Sciences and R&D Head to Preston Systems Limited. Dr. Jhire sir is very passionate about the building vibrant innovation ecosystem, especially in higher education system that all we have noticed. And he is working in the area since 2012. He has organized many innovation initiatives at national and international level to identify and connect innovations and innovators with mentors and investors. He's also a brain and driving force behind annual initiatives that all we are taking up in all our higher education institutions, that is Smart India Hackathon, which has now evolved as world's biggest open innovation model. Sir is also instrumental in conceptualizing first of its kind Atal Innovation Ranking Framework, that is ARIA, for ranking all education institutes in India on their innovation achievements. To transform Indian education system, currently IIC has been established in more than 1,500 institutions and working closely under the guidance of Dr. Jhire sir. Through various IIC initiatives, Dr. Jhire and his team is successful in reaching out to more than 10 lakh students and 70,000+ faculty and professionals. There is to enable students and faculty of higher education institutions to work on their innovation, startup and enterprise. He has worked on enabler framework, that is National Innovation and Startup Policy for faculty and students. That is from 2019. So another very unique program conceptualized by Dr. Jhire sir is MBA in Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Venture Development. So these are the few initiatives which has been taken up by the MHRD Innovation Council. Above all, as we all are aware that from the last 3-4 years, a massive attempt has been made in the ministry to connect the students and higher education institutes across the nation to the ministry, and that is being all possible by the establishment of MHRD's Innovation Council under the leadership of Dr. Abhay Jhire sir. So with this, I welcome you, sir, on behalf of BMS Institute of Technology and Management and AIC NITTE Incubation Center. I also welcome Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari sir, currently the Vice Chancellor, NITTE Deemed University. Since from 2017, he is guiding the NITTE Deemed University in the capacity of Vice Chancellor. Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari started his academic journey in Mysore Medical College, from where he graduated, followed by a diploma, and completed his post-graduation MS in ENT from JNM Medical College, Davangere. He has served for about 10 years in various capacities in the academic domain. He has also held a long list of executive and non-executive posts, such as President IMA South Canara branch, President EOI Karnataka chapter and Karavali branch. He is the recipient of various honors and awards, the most prestigious one being the Aryabhatta Award for Excellence in the Field of Medicine by Aryabhatta Cultural Association. Sir, I also warmly welcome you for the 3 days webinar series on Atmanirbhar Bharat. Today we are also with us Dr. Anant Padmanabha Acharya sir. He is the CEO of AIC NITTE Incubation Center, which is established with the support of AIM, that is Atal Innovation Mission, Niti Aayog, Government of India. He is having a very wide 30 years of experience in teaching, training and consultancy. He has also worked for various capacities for K.S. Hegde Institute of Management, Manipal Institute and so on. So I also welcome you for being with us and initiating this webinar series in a joint association with BMS Institute of Technology and Management. I also wholeheartedly welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Mohan Babu Jian, principal, BMS Institute of Technology and Management. Dr. Mohan Babu Jian is a recipient of Rex Karmavir Global Fellow Award from the International Confederation of NGOs, that is associated with the UN year 2016. He's also international doctor internship by the United Nations University Institute for New Technologies, Netherlands. He is also recipient of National Award for Doctoral Research and Management by the P.D. Agarwal Transport Corporation of India Foundation, India. His vision and involvement towards our institute has helped us in reaching greater heights and excellence in various phases of our activities. Sir, on behalf of this webinar series and all the participants, I request you a very warm welcome to you for this today's program. So I request all the guests, that is Dr. Abhay Jire sir, Sri Satish Kumar Bhandari sir, AP Achar sir, and Mohan Babu GN sir, to we officially call this webinar series open by pressing enter button in your systems. I request Dr. Abhay Jire sir, Satish Bhandari sir, Mohan Babu sir, and AP Achar sir.
Our Vice Chancellor has to leave. He has to go for another meeting now. So I request Vice Chancellor to speak a few words and log off.
Good morning, Namaskar. It's my privilege to be part of this inaugural function organized by Atal Incubation Center, NITTE, in collaboration with the BMS Institute of Technology. As I got another meeting, I was supposed to join at 11 o'clock. I may be excused. I will say a few words. My job has been made very easy by Dr. Mohan Babu, the principal of BMS Institute of Technology. Dr. Abhay Jire ji, the Chief Innovation Officer, Ministry of HRD, Government of India, and AP Achar, the architect of this 3 days webinar on startups and innovators, the role of startups in Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, and other participants. I'm extremely happy to be part of this program. I congratulate Atal Incubation Center for organizing this webinar series. And as you all know, we are in an unprecedented, difficult situation now for the last 5 months. And there is a silver lining in this dark cloud. I think that is the theme of this webinar, Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. I think self-reliant India. I think it's one of the silver lining. We are also associated with the 1,000-bed hospital, and we got more than 36 institutions spread out in 3 campuses, Bangalore, NITTE, and Mangalore. And when the lockdown started in the month of March, I think we are suddenly caught unaware, and particularly in the hospital. For an example, it was difficult to get one single PPE. Many people didn't know what is personal protection equipment. I asked many, even local health authorities, they were not aware of personal protection equipment. That was the status in the month of March. Today, as you know, we are self-reliant on personal protection equipment. I was told that every day they are producing more than 4.5 lakhs of personal protection equipment. That shows that how, when the Indians are pushed to the corner, how they can come out the resilient, robust innovators and who are entrepreneurs. As you all know, one of the pillars of, as our Honorable Prime Minister has said, is the demographic profile of our country. I don't want to talk about any other district. Our own district, we are talking about undivided South Canara district and Udupi districts. I think for entrepreneurship and innovators is not new to this part of the world. I think, as you all know, we have become an education hub for the last so many years. There are more than hundreds of professional colleges and all varieties of colleges giving education to people from not only from the country. Lakhs of students are coming from all over the country and from abroad. And as you all know, 5 banks have been started from this part of the world, and out of 5, 4 are nationalized banks. Udupi Hotel is, I think, a well appreciated brand, and is spread out all over the country, and they got branches in even many cities in the world. So that is the status of this particular part of the country. And I am very sure that Atal Incubation Center has got a huge role to play to kindle the innovation and entrepreneurship skill of this part of the world. I hope this particular webinar will be another feather in the cap of Atal Incubation Center, NIT Atal Incubation Center, and the presence of such expert speakers in this 3 days webinar. It definitely will enlighten the participants, and all of us will carry very pleasant memories of this webinar. And I hope many more startups, already in a very short period under the leadership of AP Achar, Atal Incubation Center, NIT, has done a great job. I was told more than 12 startups have been incubated in this very short span of time. Almost, I think it was inaugurated 6 weeks back, and they have done a great job. I hope many more startups will be incubated in this center to benefit the people at large. Wish you all the best. May God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Morning.
Thank you very much for sparing your most valuable time. Sorry for delay also. There was
no problem. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I have to leave because I attend another meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Excuse me, Dr. Abhay Jireji. I'm very sorry. My chancellor has called.
I can understand. No problem, sir. It's my apologies that because
thank you,
I had to wait and I was late. Sorry for that.
Thank you.
Sir, on behalf of BMSIT, I thank you, sir. Thanks for being with us and for your thoughtful message. Thank you very much, sir. Now, my kind request to Dr. Abhay Jire, sir, Chief Innovation Officer, MHRD, to render the inaugural message and also the keynote address.
Honorable Satish Bhandari ji, Vice Chancellor for NIT. Honorable Dr. Mohan Babu ji, Director Principal for BMS College. Dr. Sheetal Sangmesh. I'm really thankful to Atal Incubation Center, NITI, and BMS Society for inviting me to inaugurate the 3 days webinar or Atmanirbhar Bharat. This initiative is going to be a milestone for both the institutions, as it is going to promote the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat in a much more emphatic way within our institutions. Few days back, I was talking at some meeting, and there we were discussing on a very different topic of nationalism, patriotism, and so on and so forth. And at that meeting, I said that for me, now, considering current Indian scenario, the new definition of nationalism or patriotism is creating more and more IP for the country. Means what? That if you are generating ideas which are emerging for this country, which will have impact across the globe, I will consider you more nationalist and patriotic. Because for me, Atmanirbhar Bharat is not by India, for India. But for me, Atmanirbhar Bharat is by India for the world. And as our Honorable Prime Minister has also said, that for him also Atmanirbhar Bharat is make in India, but make for the world. Because if we really want to achieve this $5 trillion economy, which we are aiming at, undoubtedly due to this COVID crisis, there will be some contraction. But our larger goal is unchanged. And that is our $5 trillion economy. And if we really wish to achieve that, then India needs to emerge as global startup hub. India needs to emerge as global innovation hub. And for that, we as a society needs to emerge as knowledge-based society and knowledge-based economy. Otherwise, we will never able to emerge as global innovation hubs. And if we want to really achieve these, then our higher educational institutes need to emerge as islands of innovations. And we really require 1,000 such islands of innovations, which are competing with each other with great ideas. Not just churning out students, but actually producing or generating ideas which really matter. That is very, very critical for us. And I was really very, very thrilled to see that NITI, which has multiple medical colleges, Vice Chancellor who is a clinician, and an Atal Incubation Center from there is collaborating with BMS, which is more of a technology institute and management institute. So what you really need to do now is collaborate a lot. And our technical institutions needs to collaborate with agriculture universities, medical universities, dental universities, across the sectors, because innovation is going to happen at the interface of these areas. So this is a very, very heartening thing which I saw today. And I will request you all to continue this collaboration. Send as many students as possible from your institute to their hospitals. Make them sit for 2 or 3 days. Let them identify the problems. Let them observe the problems there. Ask them to come back. Do an idea competition around those problem statements and start working on creating small, small gadgets, small, small tools, which will have relevance. Because we although talk about our demographic dividend, we hardly work on problems which really need to be solved in a very, very passionate manner. Many of the times we work on theoretical problems. And that's the reason we have millions of students, young students, who are doing technology, but we have millions of problems which remain unsolved, which even don't require rocket science kind of solutions. I talk this stats at every forum, every lecture, because I want to emphasize on our potential. At any given time point in India, we have 80 lakh students who are doing technology. 80 lakh students. And every student is expected to do 6 months project. You know, and I also know how these projects are done. People copy paste, people Google, people download, people buy. But if you just calculate the energy which gets invested in all this, is between 5 to 10 lakh person years per year. 5 to 10 lakh person years per year. It's time required for human evolution. But what happens? It all goes down the drain. And the primary reason why it all goes down the drain is because we don't work on relevant problem statements. We don't try to solve problems which are really need to be solved. And for us, getting a degree, getting those marks or grades becomes more important than actually offering the solution. And because of all this, we remain unemployable. Large number of studies have shown that Indian technical students are unemployable to a rate of, or to a ratio of, or to a percentage of as high as 60 to 70%. Means out of 100, only 40 people are employable, and that is on a very higher side. If you look at some of the private organization reports, maybe by Economic Times, they say 80% of our students are unemployable, which we don't agree, to be very honest with you. But if out of 3 people, 2 people are unemployable, that's not a very good state of our education. And the reason why we end up becoming unemployable is because we have not tried solving right kind of problems, as a result of which we don't have right skill sets and right attitude. So, if we are really dreaming of this Atmanirbhar Bharat, then we have to create generation of problem solvers. There is no other alternative. Recently, we did study where we compared our engineers with engineers from China and Russia. And what we found was that theoretically we are good. But when it comes to problem solving, when it comes to cognitive skills, when it comes to design thinking skills, we are far below the par as compared to Chinese and Russian engineers. The level of students which get into technology college, if you really look at the first year student, their problem solving capabilities are really bad. They're really bad. Over a period of time, during the technical institute or technical course, there is some improvement, but at the end of the day, at the end of the course, still they are not in par with Russian and Chinese engineers. What this explains is that we are good at theory, but when we are asked to actually use that theory to solve a problem, we get lost. We don't know how to do it. And because of that, our employability is low because our students don't perform well in an interview setup where they are asked to solve a problem rather than some basic theoretical questions. So we need to change that. And if we have to change this, then undoubtedly students' mindset has to be changed. But more importantly, faculty's mindset is also need to be changed. We need to ensure that great ideas are taken forward, are hand-holded, are supported. Because what we have observed, it may be school education, it may be college education. Who ends up killing great ideas? It's parents at home and teachers in school or teachers in colleges. They tell student, why you are getting into all this nonsense? Focus on your studies. Just see how many marks you have got. What are your grades? And because of that, our students get into a culture of spoon feeding, asking just or doing just what they're asked to do, and they stop asking relevant questions or out-of-box questions. We cannot shy away from our responsibility. So when we spoke to a large number of students, they said, sir, even if you have great ideas, our college is not supporting us. Our parents are not supporting us. Our society or social structure sometimes is not supporting us. Or maybe sometimes if they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, they say they don't support us. They ask us, why you want to get into this rigmarole of startup and entrepreneurship? Why don't you take a good job in some TCS or Wipro or Infosys and we can live a happy life? So we said we need to do something about it. And that's the reason we conceptualized this MBA program, which is MBA in Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Venture Development. It's not a normal MBA program. It's an incubator-based MBA program. It's a 70% experiential learning MBA program, only 30% classroom-based program. It's a completely new model which we are trying to build. So last year, we actually did a pilot in 4 institutions. We got quite an okay response. So this year, we are expanding it to 15 more institutions. So what we want to do under this MBA program is we want students having great ideas to come into this system, join this program become part of the incubators, because it's an incubator-based program, and under the garb or under the shade of this MBA program, actually work on their entrepreneurship, actually work on their enterprise. So parents can tell others that my kid is doing MBA. Kid or those people can tell that I am doing MBA, but under the garb of that MBA, they are actually pursuing their venture. So if they become successful, they graduate out after 2 years as entrepreneurs. If they are not successful, they have learned enough to become an entrepreneur. Because nowadays, large number of these organizations want to employ entrepreneurs. Because entrepreneur is a mindset. Entrepreneurship is a mindset. You may have your own enterprise, which can make you called as an entrepreneur. But if you don't have your own enterprise, you are always an entrepreneur. So we are getting good traction for this program. We are also improvising on it because we are also learning. But we had to do this because still the society at large, maybe if you go to Rajasthan or Gujarat, or the society is an entrepreneurial society. But if you go to places like Maharashtra or maybe, I don't know, about Karnataka or maybe some other states in the East, the society as large is not a very entrepreneurial kind of a society. So we felt we need to do that. And we have started it. We are getting good response. And I will request you as BMS College or BMS Institute to explore how some of the elements of this entrepreneurship actually are integrated in your program, whether you can offer some electives. If you have good ideas, if your student have good ideas, how they can be perceived forward or how they can be taken forward, how they can be supported. They should be more valuable than the college topper in a sense, for you. Because at the end of the day, these enterprises are going to create wealth for this country, which is extremely critical for us. Otherwise, we are just creating job seekers and not job creators. But moving forward, we have to create job creators. So another important initiative which we did for this was National Innovation and Startup Policy for faculty and students. Because when we spoke to large number of faculty, the faculty shared with us their concern that if they pursue innovation and entrepreneurship, it doesn't get calculated in their CV for their promotions. It is not counted. On top of it, the IP sharing policies of some of the institutions are terrible. The revenue sharing policy is equally terrible. For example, I was talking to one faculty from one very prestigious institute, and he told me that their institute has a revenue sharing policy where the institute takes away 60% of the revenue. So if a faculty earns 10 rupees, 6 rupees are taken away by the institute. Agar 6 rupiya institute, 60% institute takes away, 30% income tax takes away, then what did faculty is left with? There is no motivation. So we said we have to change this. IP sharing policy. Institute claims all the IPs developed by faculties and students belong to us. There was a very interesting example from one of the IITs. One student started a venture in his hostel by creating an e-business platform. He worked at night and he started that venture. And he actually started getting some basic business also. When the director came to know about it, director called him and asked him, where is institute's revenue? Where is institute's share? So student said, why I should give share to the institute? I have not used any of the institute facilities. This is my idea. I worked in hostel at night. Institute has nothing to do with it. Director said no. Because you have used institute's internet, hostel internet. The IP belongs to us. This is ridiculous. So we felt that we need to do something about it. So we got this National Innovation and Startup Policy, where we have put cap on how much should be the institute's revenue. So we have put a cap of 20%. If you want to hold an equity in a startup, institutes has to hold an equity in a startup. It cannot be more than 9.75%. That too, if institute is offering following support. For example, if institute is offering incubation support, mentoring, then only 3%. Then if institute is offering any IPs, which are not the startups IP, but other IPs, then another, again, 3%. And if institute is investing financially, then additional 3%. Otherwise, we have put a cap of 6% if institute is not investing into the startup. And now we are reaching out to all the universities and colleges, autonomous colleges across the India, telling them that please adopt this policy. We are sensitizing faculty, we are sensitizing students, because it is for their benefit, this policy. And they need to talk to their management. They need to talk to their vice chancellor and director, that, and every institute creates its own policy based on this framework, which is endorsed by UGC, which is endorsed by AICTE, saying that institute should have a similar policy. Because once institute has that policy, then it will unshackle faculties, it will unshackle students to pursue their entrepreneurship, because moving forward, we need to think about rich professors. In India, the concept is Lakshmi and Saraswati don't go together. So if you have a professor, if you're a scientist, if you're a researcher, you're destined or you're expected to stay poor, because you're not allowed to do business. This now needs to change. And there has to be a Sangam of Lakshmi and Saraswati. And we believe that this National Innovation and Startup Policy, which we have, is a very good step in that direction. Whether it's a perfect policy, maybe no. We will be looking out for more inputs from people like you to improvise on that document. And maybe next year, we will come up with a refined version of this document. But we need to start, and we need to start now. Because if we can unleash our faculty strength, if we can unleash our student strength on solving this country's problem, we will really able to create ventures which will not only have impact within the country, but outside of the world. Another very interesting aspect which we are doing is institutional innovations councils. Because institute like BMS knows how to collaborate with NITI. They have Atal Incubation Center. But there are tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 institutions in this country, which are to a tune of 8,000 to 9,000 institutions, which don't know what to do when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship development. I spoke to about more than 50 vice chancellors, directors, and deans. And when I started talking to them, they all accepted that innovation needs to be promoted, entrepreneurship needs to be promoted. But then in private, when I asked them how they were planning to do it, they all started fumbling. They never had a plan because they could understand those buzzwords, but simply were unaware on how to go about it. Because Prime Minister talks, because government talks, because a lot of ministers, thought leaders, CEOs of various organizations talk, they felt, yes, this is important. But बहुत बार वो बेचारा वाइस चांसलर रहता है, डायरेक्टर होता है, डीन, he comes from a very different background. He sometimes comes from a sociology background, he sometimes comes from political science background, basic science background. And suddenly once he becomes vice chancellor, you ask him, now from tomorrow you have to do innovation and entrepreneurship, you have to create startups. And he suddenly gets lost. What should I do about it now? They're all well-meaning people. They're all good people. They're very competent people. It's not that they're incompetent. So we said we need to do something about it. And we started this Institutional Innovation Council program. As part of IICs, now we have 1,700 institutions. And on monthly basis, we are trying to tell them what they should do, because we want to handhold them. And I'm very happy to share with you all is that due to our efforts, in last 2 years, we have organized more than 21,000 initiatives in area of innovation and entrepreneurship. Every college has done 510 events. They have done idea competitions. Because if you really ask 3 years back, how many of the colleges used to actually do idea competitions? Hardly anyone. People used to do tech fests. But think of wild idea. Promoting students to think of wild idea. Then systematically collecting those wild ideas. Converting those wild ideas into prototypes of proof of concepts. Identifying good proof of concepts. And taking them logically forward to maybe technology readiness level 5 or technology readiness level 6. Hardly anyone was doing it. TechFest used to be some student projects, where student thought he wanted to do something about it. So he did, then somebody liked it, and then we had a mela of 15 technology TechFest. But there was no systematic effort span over a period of a year, 6 months or a year, where you nurture idea in a systematic fashion. Now we need to do that. And through IICs, we are actually trying to create this culture of nurturing great ideas. And we believe that if the institutes follow our guidelines for next 2 years, then the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship will get stabilized within those institutions. Our stats shows more than 26 lakh students and faculty have got involved in these 20,000+ initiatives. It's a huge number. It's a tectonic shift. It's not an incremental shift. It's a tectonic shift which we are talking about. And now with this new education policy, we believe that there will be a huge impetus to our work, because this new education policy has huge impetus on National Research and Innovation Foundation, allows students to take different subjects so that ideas at interface can come up in a much more prominent way, allows students to get in and get out at various years. This will help us with a huge emphasis, with a huge emphasis on cognitive skills, design thinking skills, problem solving skills. We believe that this new education policy will help us accelerate in the direction which we have already started. I'm really very thankful once again to BMS Institute for organizing this webinar. And I hope that you will not only end up motivating your students in big way, more importantly, you will end up charging your faculty to pursue their ideas, their interests, start their own startups, get on the board of various startups, have their own DIN number, and actually emerge as an academician who is also a successful entrepreneur. Thank you. Thank you very much once again for inviting me here. And if you have, I can take questions.
Thank you, Dr. Abhijiri, sir, for the wonderful session. Thank you for... Okay, we'll just take a break. Principal, sir, please.
No, please go ahead. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Dr. Abhijiri, sir, for the wonderful session. Thank you for igniting our minds about innovation, entrepreneurship, different technology collaborations, and start giving solutions to relevant problems. Thanks a lot, sir. Now I request Dr. T.N. Manjunath, sir, Dean External Relations, BMSIT and M, to render the closing remarks, after which our principal, sir, will talk after Dr. Manjunath, sir.
So I hope there are no questions there.
We will have questions, maybe let him thank, maybe. Otherwise, Manjunath, can we hold on for some time?
Yes, sir, please.
Because it doesn't look logical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fine. Sir, thank you very much. It was a very enlightening talk. In fact, we met when we were in Delhi during the first meet of all IICs across the nation. More than 300 institutes had participated, and you all were there. It was very good. I understand. We all understand that it's very important to build entrepreneurs from the institutions rather than just graduates from the institutions. It's very exciting. You were mentioning actually about the incubation embedded MBA programs. Okay. Suppose, how is it that we can start such a program? There are two things. One is we have applied for autonomy now after 18 years of the program. The institution has made all necessary preparations, our curriculum, academic council, everything is ready. In the month of January, we applied, but we are waiting for the HRD to be active. I don't know why they are sleeping now. Honestly, don't get me wrong. I just can't wait for 9 months to get autonomy. This is an NBA accredited, NAAC accredited, NIRF ranked institute. And if I am made to wait for 8-9 months, even after getting everything ready, I don't know how do I respond to this call that you are giving. Kindly help us talking to MHRD if possible. That is one thing. Second thing is I'm very keen on, or maybe we in the institute are very keen on having very much like what you said, incubation embedded MBA program. I don't know whether my university, of course I have not tried, will permit that, or can we have affiliation to kind of MHRD's innovation center itself and get these kinds of programs?
So it's a program floated by MHRD Innovation Cell, or now we are Ministry of Education, not MHRD.
Yeah, correct.
Ministry of Education Innovation Cell, as well as AICT. It's an AICT approved MBA program. So like normal other approval processes, this MBA program also needs to go through those processes. So the advertisement regarding program is floated somewhere in month of January, and then people have to apply. Then we actually have a selection process where we get into interview process. We'll look into the readiness. There's a real big committee which looks into the readiness of these institutes to run this program. Last year, we got applications from, last year means this year, this January. We got application for from about 20 institutes, 23 institutes, out of which we have given approval for 15 institutes. And this academic year, they are starting the program, because it's not a conventional program. We need to ensure that very good functional incubation center is mandatory, it's a requirement. Then we also need to have right kind of staff which has experience in entrepreneurship and venture development, because it's only 30% classroom based. So it's more mentorship based, it's more hand holding, actually doing things on ground.
Correct.
You know? So it's there. So wait for another 5-6 months and you will see an advertisement in paper.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Thank you very much. In fact, the autonomous syllabus that we have designed for your engineering program now, it has got very specifically designed streams for entrepreneurship itself. In fact, a student can do market survey as a part of his mini project, and develop his product as a part of his project. Okay, and choose the electives. They do research methodology related kind of thing. We have a set of electives and the courses which the people who are entrepreneurial minded now they can take. And there are a set of other programs which job seekers can take. There are a set of courses which the higher study people who are interested in higher studies can take. Likewise, we have designed it so well. In fact,
but I will request you all to actually ensure that each and every student is trained in 2 or 3 aspects. One is design thinking.
Correct, sir. Yes.
How to think is extremely important nowadays. Yeah. How to identify a problem, how to conceptualize a solution, irrespective of whether he is a job seeker or a job creator. You need to train people on that. Then we need to train people on communication skills and cognitive skills. Listening also is extremely critical.
True.
So our listening skills are, in a sense, quite terrible, because we really need to get trained how to identify or how to extract the gist of all the things which are said around, one, and then how to communicate back. So these 3 things are very critical, along with problem solving skills. So I will request your institute to organize workshops, especially focused on these aspects. Okay. Because if you create a problem solver, it means you are teaching a student how to fish and not just giving or feeding him fish.
Yeah, true. Maybe at the same time, maybe to add to your words, in fact, you were mentioning about some of the institutes acts are discouraging students from getting into patents and such kind of a thing. And this one institute, it supports both faculty and students by providing full financial support to their patenting and giving rights to that patents to them only.
Completely. Yeah, but we need to go beyond that. Now you need to start talking to investors.
Right, sir.
You need to have a portfolio of investors on your board, you know, so that faculty can start pitching their ideas to those investors.
Correct. Yeah.
So otherwise, what will happen is that your all investments in supporting patenting of some of the ideas will go waste.
You're
because if there is no conversion of that patent into something which is revenue relevant,
You're right.
it is money down the drain in a
Correct.
sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So you certainly need to support faculties in patenting. That's a very good thing which you are doing. But now you need to graduate and move forward on how you can commercialize some of these patents by engaging with the right kind of investor community.
Yeah, in fact, very recently we were in a discussion with the Technology Center of MSME at Uttarakhand, Electronics Technology and Services Center, and we have submitted a couple of ideas. They are already converted to products. One is semi-autonomous robo to supply the medicines and drugs in the COVID rooms to them. They have actually they are validating that particular technology, and they have given some comments to us, and we are improving upon that. We have also committed that the patent will be given to students only, and with that they will be giving their logo for us to commercialize it. And we are actually requesting them to share the expression of interest among MSMEs across the country. Whoever is interested, we are willing to transfer the technology so that we can share the revenue later. Such certain initiatives are going on, maybe with the help of all my colleagues and management. We are doing wonderfully well that way.
Thank you. Good.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, we have.
I think I have to close down in 12:30.
Just one small clarification. We are planning to offer this incubation embedded PGDM. We have an incubation center with Management Institute also. So what is the process, sir? How do you go ahead?
I just told some time back that you need to apply to AICT once the advertisement is out in next 5-6 months. In month of January, the advertisement should be out.
I got it.
We will let you know
the process. AICT only.
Yes, it's an AICT approved program.
Oh, got it. I got it. Thank you.
I have one query. I know that we all know that after this establishment of Innovation Council, there is a lot of connecting to the students and institutions all across the nation. It has been happened so far. It was not been done so long time, but after the establishment and under your leadership, it has been really we appreciate that. But is there any chance that we can have some kind of support for development of the prototype for the institutions? If you have any such kind of initiatives from the MHRD Innovation Council or
yes, very good. So what we are doing is that once you get through this process, you get into IIC Innovation Contest, which was currently on till last month. It was on. So we received about 2,000 plus prototypes in this and about 10,000 plus ideas. Now we will be screening them, and we will be funding about 100 to 150 good ideas for taking forward up to 10 lakh rupees. So the problem with, I will be very honest here. The problem with many of these prototypes are, the ideas are not so great. On the contrary, I can go ahead and say that many times the ideas are shitty. Okay, it's just a ripoff of an already existing an idea. Okay? So last year we started with 1,600 such ideas. Okay, and it was prototypes, and we had requested college to only submit top four. And when we started screening, we had a budget for 100, funding 100 projects. We could identify only 23 ideas which were fundable. This is the status. We started from 1,600. And we could identify, we had a budget for 100. It's not that budget was an issue. Ideas were shitty. How can we fund if there was no potential in majority of the ideas? So you really need to think when you are promoting your projects that you tell students or your faculty or the person If idea is shitty, tell them there and there itself that, boss, this has no future. Fail early, fail fast. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. Unfortunately, we are not celebrating failures, because failing in an entrepreneur during a startup makes you a far, far, far mature person. If you go to Israel, your actually market value goes up when you fail. So if you have 2 failures under your belt, and if you go for third venture, your market value goes up. And investors are more keen on listening to you rather than a person who has never failed. Okay? So you need to, when you are selecting your ideas, you need to select ideas which have really good potential. Then work with them to further improvise. You as a team together should join them to further improvise it, so that that idea can see the light of the day moving forward. Currently, what happens is we work in silos. Nobody cares about what other person is doing. Even if they know what they will never go and help proactively. If they want to help, the other person will not keen on taking that help. Because you start counting your revenue before even the chicken are hatched, you start counting them. And because of that, nobody gains anything. That needs to change. Identify 3, 4 great ideas within your institute and put all the resources to take them forward. And once you will start seeing success, then large number of others will get motivated to replicate that success. We really require success stories. And if we can showcase those success stories to our students, then people know how to take it forward. Okay, Chalo, I think it's 30 now.
Thank you, sir. Over to Dr. Manjunath, sir.
Namaste. Good afternoon to all of you. It's my indeed pleasure to render closing remarks for today's program, that is webinar series on role of startup and innovators in Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat is the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji of making India a self-reliant nation. With this connection, we at BMSIT and Atal Incubation Center NITTE felt to roll out series of webinars to ignite our young minds to understand the role of startup and innovators to support Atmanirbhar Bharat vision, with 5 pillars of making India self-reliant: economy, infrastructure, system, vibrant democracy, and demand. With this brief note, on behalf of BMSIT and M and Atal Incubation Center NITTE, and my own behalf, we would like to thank Dr. Abhay Jiresar, Chief Innovation Officer, MHRD, Government of India, for being with us today in spite of his busy schedule. Thank you, sir. Thank you. We would like to thank Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari, sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, NITTE University. We'd like to thank our Chairman, Sri M. Madan Gopal, sir, IAS retired in his absentia. We'd like to thank Dr. A.P. Achar, sir, CEO, AIC, NITTE, for collaborating with us. We'd like to thank our beloved principal, Dr. Mohan Babu GN, who is source of inspiration to roll out such kind of programs at our campus. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Dr. Sangamesh, Incubation Manager, BMSIT, for taking lead in organizing this event. Finally, I would like to thank BMSIT Innovation Center coordinators, Dr. Sheila and Shama. Thanks for all the technical team of NITTE, AIC team, and BMSIT team. Thank you all again. We'll meet tomorrow with the other session. Raman Gujral is the resource person. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for joining this wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sangamesh sir, can I end the session?
Yes, sir. You can end the
Okay.
session. So before
Okay,
before you make it end, just have a small announcement.
Okay,
So
sir.
thanks for joining us today for all the participants. So tomorrow will be Sri Raman Gujral, who will be speaking on frugal innovations, how it can be the frugal innovations will have the will be converted into to the next level. And also the next another third day, that is Dr. Anita Gupta from the DST, that is she will be heading the NEB division. She will be speaking us. So we have kept it very short with respect to time is concerned. So please bear with us for the next 3 days. Sorry, for the next 2 days. Thank you, one and all. Sir, you can close it, sir.
Okay. Sir, can I end the session?
You can end, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.